we're doing multiple searches and that we're utilizing our partners at the FBI that have some really, great equipment, training, experienced people, all of those things. We're coming at this investigation with from every angle and with everything that we have access to.
We have not been able to locate the child as of yet.
So he is an arrest in the future for mom Ashlee Buzzard. Detectives searching her home as her daughter Melodee remains missing. Plus, I thought I had died. Teacher Abby Werner's emotional testimony reliving the day that she got shot by a 6-year-old student. And time seems to be ticking for Wendy Adelson. Is anything going to happen? Well, Mama Donna's behind bars. But is this complete justice for Dan Markelli? 2 of his former students who are now lawyers join us live on the show. Also this hour, a judge left stunned in the courtroom as a cop goes pantsless on a virtual hearing. Just wait till you see the video. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements and happy Halloween. I'm Julie Grant and we got a great show planned for you. So let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, or if you're one of our friends across the pond, it's lunchtime, maybe you're having some Halloween candy. It's time for my opening statement. Common sense could have saved the day. Common sense could have prevented the shooting of teacher Abby Werner by her 6-year-old student. That child had a terrible history of violence and behavioral problems. The year before, that student had reportedly choked a teacher, and also reportedly pulled up the dress of a female classmate and reportedly touched her inappropriately. That child had just completed a 2-day-long suspension for a violent episode where he threw teacher Abby Werner's phone. So you couple all that background information, all that history with this kid, couple it with all of the people who either knew or highly suspected that he had a gun that day. The staff reported it to the assistant principal for permission to search the kid, which was denied. All the meantime, kids in the classroom are telling the teachers that the child had a gun and had bullets with him. And that wasn't enough. Where was the common sense? What was the fear? Violating the 6-year-old's privacy rights? He's 6. He has no right to carry a concealed weapon. He has no right to privacy when there are students reporting that he has a gun. Hearken upon your common sense. Search the little monster. What's the worst thing that happens? You're wrong? No gun? Great. No harm, no foul. The search was justified. The search was totally proper. People are so afraid of getting sued these days for a civil rights violation. Is that what it is here? But I gotta tell you, no self-respecting judge in America would entertain such a lawsuit on those facts in this violent climate in America where schools sadly are on high alert every single day and have to be extra vigilant. Sure, there are handbooks for everyone in the school system on how to be safe and a protocol for weapons in the school systems, and that is all fine and good. That's great. But common sense needs to prevail above all else, especially when there's the potential for people to be killed. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Who's in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
Listen, that's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
Come out. Come down the road. Come on.
In Connecticut, we've got defendant Kimberly Sullivan back in court. She has a hearing this morning. She's the woman accused of holding her stepson captive in her home for more than 20 years. Court's going to start up at 2 p.m. Eastern time. In Wisconsin, we've got testimony continuing in the bad boyfriend murder trial for defendant Matthew Paul. He's accused of killing and concealing the body of his girlfriend, Stephanie Pavlins, whose remains were found in the woods. That's going to get underway at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to take you in there live when it does. And in Florida, Florida. We've got the defense case resuming in the murder trial for defendant Alicia Andrews. She's accused in the ambush shooting of rising rapper Julio Fulio. Court's going to get underway at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Right now, let's turn to some brand new developments in the case of missing 9-year-old child Melodee Buzzard. Her mom, Ashlee Buzzard, served with some search warrants, was seen walking to a car with law enforcement on Thursday.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm with KSBY News. Can you confirm if you're with the FBI or if you're with investigators?
The Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office says in part that sheriff's detectives, along with the FBI, served up some follow-up search warrants at the home of Ashlee and Melodee Buzzard. This is in the 500 block of Mars Avenue, as well as a storage locker was searched. So was the rental car. That was searched too, that Melodee was last seen in. So the home, the storage locker, and the rental car all searched. This anticipation in the need for access to the residence. During the search for an extended amount of time, detectives escorted Ashlee Buzzard to an alternative location so it wouldn't interfere with the search. Now, the case remains a missing persons investigation. That's what they're calling it, still a missing persons case. No arrests made. Police say they're focusing on a 3-day-long period between October the 7th, when this photo you see here was taken. That's when Melodee was at the rental car business with her mom. And these are screen grabs from the surveillance camera. And she's wearing a wig there at the rental car agency, which has investigators, and probably you at home, very suspicious of why she would be in disguise with her mom on that trip from California to Nebraska. So let's talk about whether there can be an arrest for mom Ashlee Buzzard sued. I've been saying all week, cuff her already, cuff her. Last week, it was last Monday, the Daily Mail reported she had 72 hours to cooperate, or else police were saying you're going to face arrest. And she hasn't cooperated, and so why hasn't she been arrested? Let's discuss that. Let's bring in the former head of the homicide unit in Norfolk County, Massachusetts, attorney Rick Grundy. Let's bring in celebrity attorney and family law expert Randy Kessler. And let's bring in retired NYPD deputy inspector and the author of the book Once a Cop, Corey Pegues. Good morning to you all. Wow, what a power panel this is. Corey, I want to start with you in the case investigation. Tell us what you're thinking is going on here with mom, please.
Well, thanks for having me. Well, the first thing that I'm thinking is she probably knows something. You made a very good point. You said, well, she should be arrested. She should be arrested. The police are going to give her enough rope to hang herself. She's eventually, if in fact she has something to do with it, she's going to make a mistake. We don't want to just immediately go out and throw the bracelets on her to handcuff her. We're going to let her act like everything is fine. This is a missing person. Obviously, we're looking at it as more than a missing person. As investigators, we're really trying to drill down what happened to this child and where is she. But we're not going to put the bracelets on her. We're going to let her stay out, and eventually she will do something and we'll get a clue. So we want to arrest her when we really have an ironclad case to put the bracelets on her.
That makes sense. So going back to what you said, Corey, about give her enough rope to hang herself here. So we know she goes on this trip from California to Nebraska, comes back without her daughter, Melodee, and she rents a car to take that trip. That's how, fortunately, investigators know that Melodee was alive on October the 7th. Corey, this is a tough question, but this is the reality, as upsetting as it is. Do you think there's hope that Melodee Buzzard can be brought home alive?
Well, Julie, we've talked about this for years. I'm always going to hold out hope until the last minute. We've seen cases where, you know, we find people 5, 6, 7 years later. Let's just hope. I'm always going to keep hope alive. Hopefully that God is protecting this child and she's somewhere, and they'll bring her back home to safety.
Yes.
That's my opinion on this.
Yes, we're all hoping for that for sure, Corey. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about what may have occurred in Nebraska. Rick Grundy, tapping into your experience working lots of homicide cases. I keep thinking, if mom wanted to commit a homicide here, why go to Nebraska to do it? What's in Nebraska? I keep thinking about that. You know, if she didn't want her daughter any longer, what's there? And then I keep thinking about whether her daughter could have been sold. I would love for you to weigh in on that possibility, Rick.
Well, that's definitely got to be a focal point of the investigation. What is the connection to Nebraska and this particular suspect in this matter? Going back in both her life and that of the child's as well. Is there somebody in Nebraska that could be a part of this? If the child is being used for nefarious purposes, is there a co-defendant up there, or is it simply the location, something about the location? Gathering information with respect to the travel of the rental vehicle should be enlightening with respect to following up on that. But that's got to be the first layers of the onion to peel away, is what is in Nebraska that drew this woman with her child in disguise.
Right, Rick. I'm sure we can bet investigators are there on the ground right now trying to answer those questions you raised. Thank you. And so it's a real possibility. She could have been killed. She could have been trafficked. If she is alive, and that is the hope we all have. Randy Kessler, I want to tap into your expertise with family law. Let's say, by the grace of God, these investigators can put eyes on her, find her, bring her home. Is she going back into that home with Ashlee Buzzard?
Not in a million years. I mean, we always protect children first, right? That's the state's job, is to protect children first and foremost. There's that Latin saying, parents patriae, and they're going to place her somewhere where there are eyes on her, whether it's a foster home, whether it's a family member who's under some strict instructions not to be around the mom. If mom's under suspicion, they're not going to allow her. A civil court will not allow that. And I want to go back to what Corey said. I think Richard and Corey, nailed it. But Corey said they're not going to arrest her because they want to give her rope to hang herself. Well, that's true. When you arrest somebody, you clam up. She should be clamming up anyway, but when you arrest somebody, they're not going to talk. When she thinks she can wiggle out of this, if she is guilty, by telling the police what they want to hear or trying to point them in the other direction, she's more likely to talk, and there's more likely to be information coming. But to answer your question, I cannot imagine her being left alone with the child as long as there's any cloud of suspicion. Much lower standard in a civil case, right, than in a criminal case. Just have to prove there's some danger, and the state will step in.
I really appreciate that, Randy. Thank you. We know that there's a lot of public concern here. We've seen protesters outside of Ashlee Buzzard's home demanding answers. We know people are just horrified at this. And what I mean by that is that she seems to not care what's going on with her child. We have a clip, and this is Melodee's half-sister. Her name is Karina Meza, and she's approaching mom, Ashlee Buzzard, at her house, trying to appeal to her, trying to get her to say something and explain where her daughter is. Let's take a look.
Ashlee, it's Karina. I just want to see if you're okay. If Melodee's okay, how you guys are doing. Do you have the time to speak with me?
Ooh, look at that. Corey Pegues, what does that video of mom tell you?
Well, it's obvious that this woman doesn't want any contact with anybody about her child. She definitely, just like Rich and Randy said, there's definitely some suspicion there, and she doesn't want to talk, which is fine. But I can bet you $1 to a donut, just like I said earlier, the longer you keep her out here on her own and she's comfortable, something will happen. And remember, they got the FBI, some of the best investigators in the world, that's on this case. As long as they keep turning over cups, they're eventually going to get one piece of evidence where they could get her in that room and just grill her, and all her statements are going to be misleading.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about how she couldn't provide any explanations when questioned. So going back to October the 7th, here's the timeline of what we know. Melodee was alive on the 7th. That's when they started that road trip to Nebraska. She returns home without Melodee, so that gets us to the 10th. It was on the 14th that the school district where Melodee attended school contacted mom. She had no reasonable explanation of Melodee's whereabouts. Fast forward to the 15th, that's when detectives first go in and search the residence. Ashlee Buzzard was extremely uncooperative. On the 22nd, they said that Melodee still remains an at-risk missing person. And then yesterday, on the 30th of October, we know that is when Those 3 searches took place. The home again, also the rental car used, and a storage unit. Rick Grundy, there's obviously people, like myself, I'm in the camp of, arrest her. I'm thinking at the very least, she's obstructing justice and endangering the welfare of her child. Put her in a jail cell, stick her somewhere she's not being helpful. Your thoughts on that as a prosecutor?
Oh, I'm absolutely aligned with Corey, although I share your sentiment. Corey's right on there because, the difficulty here is, let's say, and maybe trumped up is a little bit too strong, but you find something to charge her with, you grab her, you bring her in, and she spills the whole beans. And 6 months later, you're in front of a judge on a motion to suppress that statement. And because the arrest seems to be based on a desire to take her off the street, you lose that. So, and I also agree that you leave them out there and they turn to trip over themselves. So focus on those, anybody that she has had contact with or seems to have had an intimate relationship with throughout the last 6 months, year, 2 years, whatever it is. Open up a grand jury, bring them in, have a police officer notably on her, following her everywhere she goes, have an undercover officer not so noticeably doing the same. Get the phone records, get the car records, get the credit card records, and knock them out.
Yeah, surveil her for sure. We don't want her destroying any evidence if she committed any crimes. A great discussion with you all. Our power panel sticking around for the show. Want you to do the same at home, please. When we come back, 2 former students of victim Dan Markell are joining us live this morning as we talk about whether he's received complete justice. Plus,
can you put your appearance on the record, please?
Yes, Officer Jackson. Badge number 3919, out of the 12th precinct.
All right.
You got to ask the former judge.
You got some pants on, officer?
Trending this morning, we got a viral video taking the internet by storm as a police officer goes pantless during a court hearing.
I ended up asking him if he loved me. He said, I don't know. I said, do you love her? He said, I don't know.
That set you off?
Someone was stabbed?
Yes, she's on the floor.
I didn't have the intent to kill Sarah. I really just wanted to scare them.
It looks more like fury than fear. Did you kill Sarah to possess what she had with Josh?
Sorry.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. All right, this moment may not exactly be true crime, but it is hilarious. It happened in a Detroit courtroom, catching our attention this morning. Take a look.
Officer Jackson, good morning to you. Can you put your appearance on the record, please?
Yes, Officer Jackson. Badge number 3919, out of the 12th precinct.
All right.
You got to ask the former judge.
You got some pants on, officer?
Sir, they're in the... No, sir.
Officer Jackson, okay.
The judge's reaction. Oh, my goodness. All right, so the Detroit chief of police released this statement to Scripps News Detroit on the incident, saying, quote, the Detroit Police Department requires its officers to represent themselves in a dignified and professional manner while attending court proceedings. The officers' actions are not representative of the professionalism of this department and will be appropriately addressed to maintain the public confidence and efficient operation of this department. Our apologies are hereby extended to the judges and the staff of the court, as well as anyone else who might have been in attendance during this incident, end quote. Well, according to the district court's website, this is obviously a violation of the dress code for court. Even though it's virtual, it's court. But this officer, his name is Matthew Jackson, has always been known for being a very professional police officer. But Detroit police are still investigating the issue. So let's start with your reactions to this moment, and then we'll talk about what, if anything, should happen to this officer. Poor guy. All right, I'm so happy to welcome in the studio comedian and media entrepreneur Rachel LaForce is here. Good morning,
good
Rachel.
morning.
And joining us remotely, retired NYPD Deputy Inspector Corey Pegues. All right, so let's start with your reactions, and then we'll get into whether this officer should be disciplined. Rachel, I'm sure you have so much to say about this.
I don't have a lot of blues in my family, but I have never felt more connected to a police officer. I'm like, we really are all alike, you know? We really are more alike than not. And it's also the confidence. I think so very clearly he didn't know that we couldn't see. Like the juxtaposition of no pants and just like, yep, I'm here, I'm reporting for duty. I'm like, I want to know everything about this man.
I know. You know, and you can just tell he did not see that the angle.
Yes.
You know, the angle, just if he would just tilted it up a little
just
bit.
Slightly.
Nobody would be talking about it. Corey Pegues, what did you think when you saw the clip?
I thought it was quite funny. I'm like, damn, I wonder if they're going to hold him in for contempt. For contempt of court for not wearing no pants. But listen, it should be well known that you have to have the camera, you know, at your face level. This guy, he didn't know, no harm, no foul. To me, if I'm the commander or the police commissioner, obviously we're going to put out an apology like they put out. This is no harm, no foul. He shouldn't be disciplined. It was a mistake. I don't want to even tell you what I'll be wearing on court TV in the bottom sometimes. You know, it's just a Zoom.
Corey,
it's a headshot.
It's a headshot. Pants on right now. Yes. Rachel's got lots of jokes if you don't. We will not ask you to prove it. But so, okay, the discipline, you said, you know, you were a very high-ranking official with the NYPD. God bless you. You retired a deputy inspector. So, you know, you would be in a position if this was one of your officers to discipline him. You said no, and he's a good officer by all accounts. Everyone says this was just an unfortunate incident. How would you have the conversation with him, Corey? How would that play out?
Well, obviously, I would bring Matthew in to the office. We would explain to him the protocol on how you're supposed to comport yourself during court, either virtually or in person. And, you know, I would give him a warning, admonishment. I say, hey, listen, if this happens again, you know, then there might be some discipline. But to me, there's no harm, no foul. You know, we're in the business of beat everybody up for every little thing now. This is nothing compared to what some cops are out there doing.
Right. Rachel, what do you think?
No, I agree. I feel like, so I have small kids, and we talk about natural consequences, right? So if you already served a consequence, you're not going to get one from me, because the natural consequence is so much worse, and that's why I feel for this poor man. He's going to be the guy that didn't wear pants to court, you know? Like, that is the consequence. He knows that now. He's that guy, you know? So I think that the consequence has matched the action here.
Right. And then when he does have his pants on in person, people are going to joke, aren't they?
Yeah, good. We're glad you wore your pants today, officer. Thank you so much for showing up. Yeah, exactly right.
Poor guy. Rachel, I have another clip we're dying to show you. So this judge, and the judge's reaction is also, I think, what makes it funny, right? The way, like, he responds to him. So this judge is awesome. So he's in Detroit, and a few months back, there was a viral video. Maybe you both, or maybe anybody at home might have seen this. Tweet us, let us know. There was a woman making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that appears in court in front of him. We got the clip.
You just showed me a paper, Miss Outerbridge. That
yes, I did. Right. So when I called.
No, we can't talk at the same time.
Well, I apologize for being late. Excuse me.
Stop.
Miss
Outerbridge,
you asked me a question. I'm just trying to answer it.
I know. Put whatever you're trying to prepare now.
I'm trying to be my daughter.
Get your coat. You gotta put your properly dressed on.
I am properly dressed. I have on a t-shirt. I am properly dressed.
Is that a robe?
It's the problem, sir. I'm not even doing that. You asked me a question. I'm answering. My daughter is sick. I had to keep her home from school. I'm just trying to feed her. That is it.
That's terrible, but you're in court.
Miss Outerbridge, I'm sorry that your daughter is sick. But again, you're in court, okay? And we're going to treat it as such.
Oh, my gosh.
Rachel, would you think?
I think it's the judge, because this is the same judge from the other. So there's something there, you know? Oh my gosh. Well, for me, listen, I have so much understanding and respect where it's like, if you've got a sick kid, like, that's a tough spot to be in. And so, but just for me, it was more of the angle. Like, it wasn't even like, okay, I propped it up, like, Judge, I'm here. It was like a TikTok video, you know, like giving you a different angle is so fun. And the fact that this judge is like, he's all the way back. Like, his body language is just like, I can't give up because I'm still doing this, but I'd like to. I would like to.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, his face, and he's looking at her, and you're right. It's like, where's the camera? Is it on the floor?
Yes.
You're right. It did look like a TikTok. Corey, and this is court. What did you think of that?
I think they need to get rid of virtual court in Detroit. It's just too much. It's too much. Or they need to do like court TV. When the producers tell me that I'm coming on, they send me rules and regulations that's clear on what you need to wear, how the shot's supposed to be, and how you're supposed to comport yourself.
Yeah, you're right. It's maybe just too much. Too much. People give them a little bit, you know, give them an inch, they take a yard.
Yeah.
Rachel, what do you think?
I think that's a really great point, because so many people, they don't actually know. And if you haven't been to court before in general, it's overwhelming. There's a full system. Everybody knows what they're doing. And so that can be really overwhelming. And especially if you've got a sick kid at home. And like she said, she was like, I'm here. I'm in a shirt I didn't know. You know, so yeah, we need like a list of, you know, virtual court rules, especially in Detroit. I think that's what we're learning. So.
Yeah, that little guidebook.
Yes.
You know, like what to wear, don't eat food, or make sandwiches.
Yeah, don't be making a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Yes, exactly right.
Put your pants on.
Yeah, which are pretty basic rules, I feel like, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to start.
Definitely. You know, and Rachel, you do stand-up. I'm telling you, as somebody who served in the criminal justice system, Corey can back me up on this. You would get lots of material going to criminal court.
I can only imagine. Yes, absolutely.
Endless material for you. Well, Rachel, of course, it's been a real treat having you in the studio.
Thank you
so much. And Corey Pegues, a treat having you virtually this morning. Thank you as well. Friends at home, stay with us. Our Halloween episode continues. When we come back, should Wendy be worried tonight when the trick-or-treaters are coming to her house? Could she be getting arrested anytime soon? Well, we're going to talk with two of Dan Markel's former students who are now successful lawyers. Plus, the teacher shot by her 6-year-old student taking the stand. What does the jury think of Abby's Warner?
A large memory that I have, I do remember it was like a very blank look, but it wasn't a blank look at all on his face.
And is that why you lifted your hand? Did you know what was about to happen?
Yes.
Welcome back. This morning, we're being a voice for victims and focusing on the murder of law professor Dan Markel. The 41-year-old father of 2 was shot twice in the head at his home in Tallahassee, Florida, back in 2014. He was in the middle of a bitter custody battle with his then ex-wife, Wendy Adelson. But since his murder, Wendy's mother and brother Charlie, as well as 3 other people, are behind bars, all convicted in connection to his murder. But his ex-wife, Wendy, remains a free woman. According to former Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg, Wendy could face charges with the holiday season.
I predict that Wendy will be indicted by Thanksgiving. That's my prediction. I don't have any inside information, but if you watched the trial closely, which you did, you can see that Wendy was a featured player. And after the verdict, the jury foreperson came out and said that Wendy, who was the ex-wife here, deserved to be next.
So while Wendy watch, so to speak, rolls on, her mama Donna is adjusting to life behind bars. We've got a new video to show you of Donna being transported to her sentencing earlier this month, and she appears to be in good spirits there, although she received a sentence of life in prison without parole for the murder of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel. So we're asking this morning, after 5 convictions, has justice truly been served for Dan Markel? Or is the justice incomplete at this point? I want to bring in two people who knew him well. Two of his former students, now both successful practicing attorneys, Joanna Nieves and Luis Baptiste. Good morning to you both. Joanna, let me start with you. The question of complete justice, have we seen it?
Good morning, Julie. So I think we've seen substantial accountability, but justice at this point is still incomplete. I think that when you have something so emotionally charged at the center of this all, the custody battle, the relocation, the children, you think Wendy. And so the story just feels like there's a void. And I think many people are hoping to see the full picture.
Yes. Luis, same question to you, please. Is this complete justice at this point in time?
No, I think we have not seen complete justice. I think until every person that played a role in Dan Markel's death is held accountable, no matter how big or small the role was, we won't see justice. Until everyone who took a father away from his two boys is in prison, there won't be justice.
I'm in agreement with you. I want to focus on Dan Markel, and he's been gone a long time. When we think back, this justice for him, has been slow moving at points, seems to have stalled at points. But 2014, he was killed. When you think back to your time with him as law students, I want to know something he taught you, and that you've taken with you as you've gone on to practice law, and I'm sure he would be so proud of both of you and all the success that you've accomplished. Luis, what's one thing that he taught you that's been really important for you in the practice of law?
I think he taught me to be relentless. If we look at Professor Markel's career, he was a scholar in many fields. We know his blog, Prof's blog, with his editorials in the New York Times, with his pedigree and his education, he never stopped. He kept pushing. When I spent time in his office, that's what he was talking about, being better, being sharper. And so every day I try to be better and be sharper, because Professor Markel could have just been comfortable. He had accomplished enough, but he didn't. He still aspired to do so much more. And that's what was taken from the world, the so much more that he would have done.
Isn't that the truth? That's really the truth, Luis. I mean, I think 41, there was so much life ahead of him taken away so brutally. Joanna, same question. What's one thing he taught you that you continually use in the practice of law?
For me, it's that I belong in the room. I think that going into law school, I had this sense of imposter syndrome, and it was such a small class that I had with Professor Markel. It was an advanced level course. It was maybe 10 to 15 people max in there, and it was intimidating being a law student and not knowing what I was doing, but having this person who was so sharp and intelligent, allowing me to feel like I belonged and I was part of the conversation, and I do carry that with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell us more about what it was like to be in class with him. Kind of take us there, if you would, Luis.
So it was challenging. I tell people all the time that my entire time with Professor Markel, I thought he didn't like me until I got my grade. We went back and forth. I recall in one class, he wouldn't call on me, so I raised both hands and was like, just kept him up for about 2 minutes until he said, Mr. Baptiste, go ahead. But that's what he was. It was probably my most engaging class. Every class he called on you, he pushed you. He didn't shy away from the controversial cases, from the cases that involve race. He didn't shy away from that. He pushed you there to bring more out of you. But again, every time I talk publicly about Professor Markel, I talk about what you see in that picture on your screen. Even though I took him as a student, I knew him as a father, because almost every week he found a way to interweave his two sons into our lecture. On his class door, from the top to the bottom, is what you saw was the drawings of his two sons. And so more than anything, I always ask that people remember him as a father, because even in his classroom, he made sure that we knew as students what was most important.
Luis, thank you so much for saying that. I would love for his teenage boys, they're now teenagers, to see this clip from this show and what you just shared about them, how they were always top of mind and always in his heart with everything he did. Thank you for that. Joanna, tell me, when you think back on your time with him, share some of the memories like Lewis just did, in the classroom. How did you feel? What was the experience like? Kind of bring us there if you can.
I love the word that Lewis used, challenged and challenging. The questions that were asked were very direct. But he was also comfortable and casual. I remember him just like sitting on the tabletops and talking and engaging with the students. So it was very that idealistic teacher who is invested and brings you close and makes you feel comfortable, although he's still helping you develop your skills as a lawyer and taking an investigative approach. He was not easy, but he was definitely an engaging and kind, but really I think the word is he wanted the best for you, so he wouldn't let you off easy.
That makes sense. Yeah. Sometimes, we need people to push us to our, zone of work that's just uncomfortable, and you have to experience that discomfort to grow. It seems like he wanted everyone to grow and prosper, and I know he would be so proud of the two of you, how you've grown from law students to very successful practicing attorneys, and we really appreciate you sharing the experiences with him as we want to keep his memory alive. It's such a tragedy what happened to him. Joanna Nieves, Luis Baptiste, thank you both so very much. Speak again soon, I hope. Before we go to break, friends at home, we want to remember Dan Markell. We want to show you his picture again. Loving father, prominent scholars you just heard, outstanding professor who loved to challenge his students and really wanted to see the best for them in life. We'll be right back.
Sunday nights on Court TV. Join us for a night of food, friends, and our favorite legal dramas. It's Order in the Court, and this week...
I'm Dr. Jason Bull. I study a jury's behavioral patterns.
Just give me more.
Not guilty, thank you. The verdict you get depends on me. You don't get a name like Bull because you give up before the game is over.
We're binge-watching Bull. Sunday starting at 6, 5 Central on Court TV.
Emotional testimony from the teacher who was shot by her 6-year-old student could be tipping the scales. Abby Zwerner taking the stand. She's suing Ebony Parker, the assistant principal at the school, for $40 million, alleging that Parker failed to act after being warned several times about the student having a gun. The jury got to hear what was going through the teacher's mind on that day.
And what is the last thing you remember that day at the school?
The last thing I remember at the school. Obvious, I thought I was dying. I thought I had died. I thought I was either on my way to heaven or in heaven, but then it all got black. And so I then thought I wasn't going there.
So what do you think about her testimony? Did it tip the scales? No court today. Everything will happen on Monday in terms of testimony with the defense case that will begin Monday. Just a charging conference this morning. Let's bring back in our legal eagles, attorneys Randy Kessler and Rick Grundy, and let's talk about this. Randy, I want to start with you, please. What did you think of the plaintiff's testimony?
So it was powerful. It got the jury's sympathy. But it's not what they're really supposed to focus on, right? You're not supposed to focus on the emotions. The question is causation and damages. It's a civil case, not a criminal case. Did the defendant cause the damages? And if so, what are the damages? So her testimony may go to the damages. What's the emotional toll on her? You know, how do you quantify the value of her pain? But more importantly, it makes the jury want to help her. And that's what we always want in a trial, especially a jury trial. We want the jury to want to help our side. The more sympathetic she comes off, the more they're going to try to find a way to help her and to find causation and damages.
Right. Thank you for that, Randy. Rick, to you next, please. What were your impressions listening to Abby Zwerner?
Yeah, so, as you know, I have a foundation as a prosecutor, and if you look at these cases, prosecuting can be said to be, on the face value, kind of easy. Did they do it? And this has all these other layers that Randy's talking about, determinations the jury has to make to ultimately get to a verdict and a reward or award that the plaintiff is looking for. So I agree with Randy, maybe a little more effervescently, that this is huge. This is a diamond. The jury's going to go back there and they're going to say, we want to give her what she's asking for. So the next question is, does the evidence also support a means by which they can get her there with the monies? And it's a whole separate issue that you don't have in a criminal trial that's far more complex than the sentencing, which I guess is the appropriate comparison there in a criminal trial.
Sure. So thinking about the sum of money, I want to talk a bit about that, $40 million. If there's liability, and you both know this, then the jury will proceed to make a determination of what, if anything, is owed to this plaintiff if the defendant's found liable. Randy, your thoughts on the $40 million sum?
So, and again, I like this comparison, with Richard and me, because he's the criminal and I'm the civil. Criminal, when you have a sentence, the award, it's enforceable, right? That's something Richard doesn't have to think about. They just put the cuffs on and they take the person to jail. In this situation, you got a whole nother layer, which is, can you enforce it once you get the judgment? There are a lot of hollow judgments awarded that set the stage. So there are two purposes to an award. One is to make sure the whole world knows. Anybody in this situation, report, say something, speak up. Don't be caught in a situation where you are hit with a $40 million judgment. This woman may be judgment proof. There may be insurance to cover part of it. I don't know how much is going to be collectible, but the first step is, what is the value of the damages? And I also want to mention, a lot of civil lawyers would say they'd rather have a plaintiff live. We'd all rather have the plaintiff alive. But most plaintiffs in a wrongful death case can't testify. Here you can see what this woman went through at the time of the shooting. So she's probably going to get significant damages if the jury finds the defendant was at fault and responsible for those damages.
Really good points, Randy. Rick, tell me, are you surprised at all this one didn't settle out of court?
I am to some degree, and let me just say to Randy, I have 3 beautiful kids who all had an affinity to college, so about 15 years ago I became reacquainted with the civil practice. But I agree with everything you said on that side of it. I think in this situation, I heard some testimony with respect to how she carried on her life, and she was at concerts and she was interacting on Instagrams or private messages and everything, which may cut into how she is affected in her daily life now. There was a lot of stuff I heard with respect to prior depressions and whatnot, which may cut into how much of the depression is garnered from this particular incident. But at the end of the day, this woman was shot point blank and faced death's door. So the emotional trauma is certainly there. The reason I think there may not have been a settlement is precedent. At the end of the day, this woman is kind of the scapegoat, but I think the decisions with respect to a settlement were being made by an insurer representing a school system that didn't want to set the precedent of a settlement.
Excellent points from you both. We have to leave it here for now, but this case is going to roll into next week, and I know we'll be talking to both of you soon. Happy Halloween, and thank you both for coming on the program this morning, Rick Grundy and Randy Kessler. We'll see you soon. And friends at home, thank you for watching Opening Statement.